be able to do. All right, so you guys saw that video. I appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully everybody here knows that you have a story or you're thinking about sharing your personal story. We're a little bit different in what we do. I do see a lot of different forums talking about sharing your personal story. And I think because it's become, there's an understanding that it's an impact for people, right? The majority, 99.9% of all of our talks over at TAG, Transparency, Acceptance, and Growth, that's exactly what they are. From 5-minute talks to 20-minute talks, we have 1-hour talks that we do online. We do a lot of fun stuff. And it's just around sharing a personal story. And I go into some trainings at the event around sharing your personal story and then expanding that story with some wisdom points gained, and then maybe offering your own product, your own books, your own coaching programs, your own, whatever it is that you're passionate about sharing with the world. One of the things that I do with a lot of our clients is we connect and we attract each other, because most people that I work with have been through hell. They've been through the fire, right? But they've gained some wisdom and they've come out of it and they've gained some wisdom. So at that point, when we gain that wisdom and we've come through that fire and we've learned some things, I believe it's a calling from above to go help others come through that fire. And that's what TAG Talks really is about, and that's why we're here. Again, my name is Raul Lopez Jr. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a 7-time author. I've written a whole bunch of fun books. But the most that I'm proud of is my first book I've ever wrote. It's called Heal the Boy and the Man Will Appear. And I just launched the second version of it. And these are my story. This book is not just for men. It's my story. That's why it's called Heal the Boy and the Man Will Appear. And it's about me. But what I encourage people to do, what I inspire people to do, is to take your story, learn how to tell it from stage, first to help other people. To help other people with the wisdom you've gained from your good, your bad, and your hard times, your good, your bad, and your ugly times, okay? And if you're speaking on stage, whatever you're speaking about should be in a book, right? Or if you have your book, whatever's in your book, you should be speaking about on stage. And what happens there is from there, you start working and growing with different celebrities. I have my book here with Mr. Les Brown. This is a different offer that I have, but I put a lot of people in these books with Mr. Les. And what happens when you're speaking on stages and you have videos of your content, you have pictures of you on various stages, then you have your books out there, people will start coming to you and they'll start asking you for your advice. It builds the authority, it builds the credibility. They listen to you, they hear you, you build the connection because you're talking a personal story, the emotional connection. And then people want to work with you, right? I meet a lot of people who say, I want to be a speaker. I don't want to write a book. I want a speaker. I don't want to be a coach. I just want to get paid to speak at different events. There's nothing wrong with that. And some people do well doing that, get a few speaking gigs per year. But I'll tell you, when people are coming to me and they want to, the reason I created this company is because people kept coming to me and saying, hey, can you help me? Can you help me speak? Can you help me put together a coaching program? And in the beginning, I didn't want to do that either. I didn't plan to be author, speaker, and a coach. I landed here because I took what God called me to do and I started doing it. And then people started asking me to help them do the same thing. And I said, absolutely, I'll help you do the same thing, because if I can inspire you to go out there and share your story and then help you help other people, to me, that's the ultimate life. My company is TAG Talks, but the entity is called UL Seminars, and UL Seminar stands for Ultimate Life. To me, it's the ultimate life. If you can take the wisdom you've gained, take your life, share it with others, improve their lives, and you can make an income doing it, a very good income doing it. Okay, so I'm going to get into my personal story in just a little bit, so you guys really know my background, who I am, and what this company is about. But I want to get into just a couple of notes that I have here. First, so you guys know, we're talking about the Dallas event we have coming up. We do events every quarter, but the next event is December 7th through 9th in Dallas, Texas. It's going to be an amazing event. We've got a lot of speakers already. We still have room, I think, for maybe 4 or 5 more speakers. But what it's about is sharing stories like I'm talking about. What I help people, encourage them to understand when you're sharing your story, because I think we probably have all different levels of people here who are already sharing and or who are thinking about sharing. And for those of you who are thinking about sharing your story, I want you to understand something. I'm going to go into this in just a little bit, that your wisdom that you've gained from your life is what I call the fruit of the vine. Okay, the fruit of the vine. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit if you don't understand that. And then the other thing that falls right into that is that people will pay you for your past to improve their future. People will pay you for your past to improve their future. Okay, and those two things kind of go together. And I'm going to go into that as I share you my story and explain how that works and why that works. But I want you to know, if you're not sharing your story now, you're thinking about it, but you don't, I say this because a lot of people tell me this. If you don't think people need what you have to say, your experience, or if you don't think people can use it, you're mistaken. People need your life wisdom, okay? Everything I do is based on my past experiences. Not as a victim, right? When we're young, or when we have challenges, sometimes we want to blame other people, and this happened to me and that happened to me. When we realize that life happens for us, not to us, then we go from victim mode to victor, and we can share those messages to help other people. Does that make sense? All right, I'm gonna go into my story, and I try to keep it short, but it's really hard. But I really want you guys to understand my passion for what we do here and why we do it. My book, like I mentioned to you, Heal the Boy and the Man Will Appear. That book starts out from birth, right? My mother and father came together. My father had a daughter. My mother had a daughter and a son. So I have my siblings, my step siblings, or half siblings. I don't know whatever you want to call it. They're my brothers and my sisters. And my parents came together and they had me. Okay, way back in the 1900s, in 1970, I'll tell you guys my age. In 1970, I grew up in San Jose Bay Area. Does anybody know the San Jose Bay Area, Silicon Valley? It was not Silicon Valley, Bay Area back then. There was no Microsoft, there was no Apple, there was none of that. There was cherry fields, there was orchards, there were apricots, there was just wonderful farmland. And that's actually how my family came there, originating, well, my great-grandmother came from Mexico into Texas. She came into Del Rio, Texas. And then from there, they kind of followed crops, right? History of their family, followed crops. We got into the Bay Area in San Jose, and we just stayed there. Everybody planted there, and we stayed there, and it grew into this big Silicon Valley that it is now. Anyhow, back then, it was fun. Like I said, it was orchards and fields, and we were young, and we played, and we had a great time. And I was very, very close with my father, right? Anybody here like really close with their mom or their dad, like just have that really powerful bond? I had a really strong bond with my father. I was always with him. I was always with him everywhere we went, everywhere he went. I mean, we were just always playing and wrestling. And, you know, I used to always, I describe it as like the earth and the sun, right? Without the sun, the earth will not survive, right? And that was our bond. I need my father to survive. Not realizing there were challenges in my parents' marriage, or what was happening there. One day, my mother came home. I'm playing with my father in the garage, and she says, "Jump in the car, son. We're gonna go for a ride." 7 years old, and I said, "Okay, no big deal." Back then in San Jose Bay Area, all of my family from both sides, my mom and my dad, all of my family, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, everybody lived within probably a 5 to 10 mile radius. We had a big family. So we often got in the car and went for a ride. So I said, sure, went and jumped in the car. And if anybody remembers back in the 70s, and I think they didn't change till the late 90s, there were no seatbelt laws, right? And I say that just because I jumped in the car and I was jumping around the back seat, and I remember just waving bye to my dad. Do you guys remember that? Is anybody here that remembers like when there were no seatbelt laws?
Yeah.
we used to ride in the back of trucks on the freeway when we were kids. In the back of trucks on the freeway when we were kids, and we drink water out of the hose, right? That was just kind of a common standard thing. Nowadays, I mean, because of conditioning per se, and that's a whole different subject, but if I saw somebody on the freeway with their kid in the back of a truck, it would drive me crazy. I'd be like, oh my God, what are you doing? You trying to kill this kid, or what is it? But we did that. We survived it. We're still here, right? Times change. Anyhow, fun times back in the 70s. My mother comes home. She says, get in the car, son. We're going to go for a ride. The next thing I know, I'm on a plane. I'm walking towards a plane, Alaskan Airlines, with the big Eskimo on the side of the plane. I remember looking at the plane. Does anybody remember Wolfman Jack? Wolfman Jack was a DJ. Oh, you do. See, so somebody always remembers Wolfman Jack. So I know sometimes I always throw my age out there. It doesn't matter. I'm not a young man anymore, but I'm not an old guy either. But Wolfman Jack was a radio DJ, and he had big hair and a big beard and a real rough voice, and he was on the radio all the time. And I remember when I was walking towards this airplane, I saw the Eskimo on the side of it, and I thought it was Wolfman Jack. And I was like, hey, Mom, why is Wolfman Jack on this plane? And she just laughed. So we were having fun, is what I'm trying to tell you. Got on the plane. It was exciting. I hadn't been on a plane before. Flew to Alaska. I didn't know what Alaska was, but we flew to Alaska from San Jose. Snowmobiles, cool stuff, looking around, went to this little tiny apartment. And we went to sleep. I got up in the morning, and I looked at my mother, and I looked up at my mother. I said, hey, Mom, where's my dad? Where's my daddy? And she looked at me and she looked down and she changed the directory of my life for many, many years. She said, son, don't worry about your dad. You're not going to see him again. And it shook me. And it still does sometimes. That's the hard thing about it. Childhood trauma. It shook me because it was something that I couldn't comprehend. I'm not going to see my father again. How is that even possible? Right? It wasn't even a thought, right? Like how is that possible? And what happened in me were a bunch of emotions that I didn't know. I didn't understand emotions. The subtitle for my book, by the way, is The Importance of Understanding and Expressing Your Emotions. I didn't understand what I was feeling. Confusion, sadness, shock, brokenness, just anger, all of these emotions in a little 7-year-old kid just whelmed up. And I didn't know what it was. Have you heard the term emotions, emotions, energy in motion? Right? Emotions are an energy, right? And the easiest way to explain it is if you're watching one of your kids or a family member or your favorite baseball team or whatever it is, and they score, you're excited. You celebrate, right? Without just even thinking about it, because it's an energy, it's a buildup. You see people going crazy when their team scores, right? It's energy, their excitement is built up. When we're confused, angry, our negative emotions come up, too many people hold them in. We just go, oh, we hold them in, right? When you don't know what's happening, you don't know why you're feeling the way you are, you hold it in. What happens when you compress any type of energy? At some point, it's going to explode. Some point, it's going to explode. I cried for days. I didn't function at school. I was 7 years old, just broken, not understanding, just in this loss, depressions, anxieties, all these things. I had no idea what they were. Kids started to make fun of me because I would just cry at school every day. Cry. I'd walk into the playground crying. I'd be in class crying. I was just broken. I couldn't understand these emotions that I was expressing. What happens in school, if you're a crybaby, people would start to point their finger. People would start to laugh at me. People would start to
bully.
I would start to get bullied. Absolutely. And it was like a gauntlet. Every day I'd get to school and there was this chain link fence and I'd walk through the fence and I'd have to pass the playground to get to the building, and kids would just start laughing and bullying me and making fun and this whole thing. And I remember the day came when I walked through that fence and I started to see the kids point at me. And I looked at these kids and internally I said, I'm never going to cry. I'm never going to cry again. And no one's ever going to laugh at me again. And from the age of 7, I started to fight with rage, right? I was filled up with all this anger, all this confusion, all of these emotions I was telling about. Didn't know I was releasing it, but I would release it through confusion and anger, thinking that people were going to make fun of me or laugh at me. So at the age of 7, I started fighting with people, physically fighting with people, until I was deep into my early 20s. I was lost for a very long time. So time goes by and we end up coming back to San Jose. And I do get a chance to see my father, and I'm so excited. I think life's going to be back and normal and the whole thing. Not realizing, and actually until I got much older, when we came back, the house I lived in was gone. All my furniture, all the toys, everything that we had was just, I have no idea what happened to it. Got to see my father, jumped in his arms, hugged me. We cried. We were so happy to see each other. And then he said, I got to go. And he left. And over the next years until he passed at a very young age. He was only 47 years old. Based on his lifestyle that he lived, I didn't see him very often. And so it went from like being taken from my father to being abandoned by my father. And I realized my mother, she left my father for good reason, but she didn't know how to tell us or explain it to the kids. My father was a drug addict. He was dealing with drug dealers. He was doing a lot of things that a little 7-year-old boy doesn't realize in his father. You just love your daddy. You just love your mom. We just love the person in our life. We don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, right? We don't know outside of wrestling and having fun. So I realized why my mother left my father, but she did what she thought was best. I need to get away from this guy. And she put us on a plane and she took off, not realizing how it would affect the kids, right? I don't blame her. I love my mother. I'm very close with my mother. She did what she knew. That's the challenge for a lot of us raising kids, is when we're conditioned to just follow the path of whatever we were taught, then we teach our kids the same thing. We got to question what we think nowadays. I hope a lot of you guys understand that. There's a lot going on these days versus back in the 70s, where we're just conditioned and we're pounded to think and act and do things a certain way. We got to open up our minds and we got to think for ourselves. that childhood trauma, that 7-year-old, when I was 7 years old, that thing that happened, it took me completely off path. I was broken. From that day on, I lived in a fog. My father not being around, just being lonely, depression, anxiety, all these things. Like I said, I didn't know what was going on in me, but that's what was happening looking back after the years of learning and studying. By the time I was 9, I was doing drugs. At the age of 13, I had my first child. And then at the age of 14, I got incarcerated. Just lost, living in a fog, on the streets, doing dumb things, not understanding what life was about. I don't know if you can picture when I say living in a fog, I mean literally like if you've been driving in your car and it's so foggy you can't see in front of you, that's what I felt like my life was, walking around. So when I got incarcerated when I was 14, I would spend the most of the next 10 years in some type of facility, ending up in San Quentin prison in California. Over those years, by the time I was 15, they took me from my mother. They made me a ward of the court. There's an actual legal title that I think is horrible. I'm a big youth advocate. I'll tell you guys about that later, but I think it's horrible. They titled me a menace to society, and to be able to because they were able to title me that in the city, the county I lived in, they were able to take me from my mother. This kid is a menace to society. He can't, his parents, his mother can't take care of him, so we have to take control. And that's why I was in these facilities, in and out of these facilities. That was at 15. By the time I was 16, they also registered me as an alcoholic. So by the time I'm 16, I'm on drugs. I have kids. I'm taken from my mother, and I'm a registered alcoholic. All of these things, they're just pounding into my head. You are this, you are that, you are this, you are that. I admit I was lost and I did a lot of dumb things. But we have to work with our kids better than that. You know, we have to work with our kids better than that. I ended up in San Quentin prison. And I knew at some point there had to be more to life than what I'd been living the last 10 years. I saw so many people in all these different facilities that I was in, from very young age to all the way up to, you know, people, I'm 53, my age and even older now, you know, 60s, 70s. And I would look and I'd see, and I know looking back, it was God speaking to me, but I would look and I would see these people, you know. And one time, I'm going to try and shorten this up, but one time, I want to say this too. When I was incarcerated, I belonged there. I was lost. I did a lot of dumb things. I belong there. San Quentin prison, I belong there. Okay. So I lived that lifestyle, what I call a subculture. And I hung around with a group of people, men, and our group would fight against other groups when need be, if it had to happen, just kind of the prison life. I don't know if you guys know that, but you kind of do what you have to do. Prison is segregated. Like we segregate by race. They segregate by race. And sometimes you get into it with another group, you have to go help because you're with that group. Anyhow, one time, God spoke to me, and he spoke to me many, many, many times over my life, but I didn't know it was him until later, or God, I should just say it was. I didn't know it was God until later. But there was a time that there was a fight between our group and another group, and I was sitting down on the yard in San Quentin prison, and we were playing dominoes, and one of our guys came walking towards us and said, "We have to go get down with this other group." So immediately everybody starts to stand up to go fight. There's probably 35 of us, right? I don't know how many of them there were. I don't remember. But we all stand up, and in the 2 seconds it took me from sitting down like this to stand up, I looked this way as I stood up, and there was a guy who was much older than me at the time. I'm assuming he was probably in his mid-60s, very skinny, braille, and he looked like he'd spent most of his life in prison, and he was just lost himself, right? And he stood up, and the 2 seconds, like I said, I looked over, I saw him stand up, and he starts jumping up and down, like, let's go get him. And the picture I got was, he doesn't belong here. This guy should not be at his age, little skinny, 90 pound old man, getting up and wanting to go fight, right? But you have to. That's a different story. You have to. So when I saw him jumping up and down, and it came to me that he shouldn't be here, I got a flash. I actually got a vision. And the vision was him sitting in a lazy boy chair with grandkids all around him. Very clear vision. And I saw it, and that's when it said, this guy shouldn't be here. And then it switched, and I saw me sitting.
I shouldn't be here.
I saw me sitting in that chair with grandkids all around me. And it said, this is where you're going to be. like I said, I didn't know at the time it was a vision from God. It was a prophecy, whatever you want to call it. But I'm only 53 and I have 7 grandkids. So I know I'm going to be in that chair with a million grandkids around me at some point. That vision that I saw was going to happen literally. I know it is. We got up, we did what we had to do while we were in prison. We do what we got to do. But I knew there was more. I kept getting those messages and I knew there was more. Got out of prison, decided to change. When anybody who knows the system, when you parole from prison, when you get out of prison, you're on parole for 3 years, and you have to move back to the county that your crimes were committed in, and you have to stay there while you're on parole. You're not even allowed to drive out of the county line. I went to my parole officer and I said, I need to get out of this county, because if I don't, I'm going to go right back to where I was at, because I'm hanging around the same people, right? You know that the 5 people you hang around the most is who you are in all aspects, financially, mentality, everything you do. I knew if I didn't get out of my town, I'd be right back in prison. So I went and asked my parole officer, and he said, you can't leave. He said, if you want to go somewhere else, you got to know somebody there, and you got to ask for permission from that county to go there. And my mother had moved up to, I don't know if you guys know California, but she had moved like 200 miles north into this little tiny town called Cloverdale in the Santa Rosa area. And she had a little side apartment on her property. And she said, you can move here if they'll let you. So I went and asked the parole officer if I could move there. And the parole officer said, you can, in short, he said, you can move here into my county the day you show me that you're enrolled in college. And I looked at him and I was like, okay. And he said, no. He said, don't even bother bringing your stuff until you show me a paper that says you're enrolled in college. By this time, I'm 25 years old. I just got out of prison. I hadn't even graduated from high school yet with the life that I was living. So I went to the college and I said, hey, I saw a person. I said, hey, I need to sign up for a class. What I got to do? And they said, go to administration. I didn't even know what administration was. I said, what's administration? They said, it's a place where you sign up for a class. There's the building, go over there. Went there. They told me to take an assessment, took the assessment. They told me straight up, you're not ready for college. And I said, I need to go to school here. What do I got to do? And they said, there's this little trailer on the side of the school. And you go there and you get your high school equivalency, and then you can take classes here. And I said, if I do that, does it say I go to school here? And they said, yes. So I said, sign me up. Signed up, took it to the parole officer. He let me move there. Started the new directory of my life, right? At 7 years old, boom, childhood trauma, took me off path. Now this is a whole new start. Started studying. Got through the GED or high school equivalency, whatever it was, started taking beginner college classes, general education, discovered Psychology 101. Psychology 101 changed my entire life. Throughout all of those years that I was lost, throughout all of those years I was broken, throughout all of those years that I was just in that fog, I always ask myself 3 questions. Why do I do what I do? Why do I act the way that I act? And why do I feel the way that I feel? Because I never felt good. There was always something wrong. In Psychology 101, it answers those questions. I'm paraphrasing. If you experience this as a child, you may feel like this. If you experience this as a child, you may act like this, and so on and so forth. It answered the questions that I had no idea there were answers to. And 2 things hit me. 1, wow, I've been asking this my whole life, and there are questions. These are answering my questions. I got so into psychology, you wouldn't imagine. The second thing was, if this isn't a book, it's not just me. Millions of people are suffering and asking these questions. It's not just me. So it opened my mind. It broadened, like, wow, there's a lot of people suffering in this world. There's a lot of people going through this fire. So I got off track of the general education, started studying psychology, quantum physics, neuroscience, anything I could that helped me understand my mind and my body. Okay. The science of the mind and the body, psychology, biology, there's science to all of it. Now combine that with God, and you're on your way to just skyrocketing your life. When I understood the science of the mind and the body, I knew why. I knew all the whys, all those questions that I've asked, but there was still something wrong. I was still broken. I was still in pain. I didn't understand what was happening. I understood this stuff. What's going on? Why do I still feel like this? What is wrong? Why do I still feel this way? And then I started to get a call from God. Come to church. Just come to church. Just come to church. That's all it was. And I would walk to the local church and I'd sit in there. I wouldn't go to the service, but I'd walk to the local church and I would sit in there. Like, here I am. What's happening? Nothing. For a year, I did that. Just walk, sit there, nothing. But I was feeling called, so I would go. Finally, I meet a pastor. And this pastor can see through me. And he used to come up to me as soon as I get to church. he'd come up to me and he'd grab me and he would like hug me. And it was so uncomfortable, right? I didn't have a father. No men would touch me. I was very uncomfortable when he would hug me, and I could try to push him, like flex out, and he would hold on to me really tight. And he would say, I love you. I love you. I love you, Raul. And it would just break me. I mean, it's still hard to see that because I know my father loved me. I know he had his challenges. I know he loved me, but I never had love from a man. And he said, Raul, I want you to do two things. He said, I want you to keep coming back to church, and I want you to learn how to quiet your mind. Quiet your mind and soak in prayer. Quiet my mind. How many people here know you can quiet your mind? If you do know, you learned that at some point, because my mind used to do this nonstop. I had no idea I can stop my track and go, I'm going to think about something else. I'm not going to think about what went wrong yesterday or what might happen wrong tomorrow. I'm going to think about what's happening right now, how happy and joyful and healthy and everything else. What's going on here? Well, lower your hand. Oh, there's this new AI stuff, and it keeps saying, like, whenever I move, it looks like I'm raising my hand. Anyhow, I lost my track real quick based on that little hand thing. What was the last thing I said? Somebody give it back to me.
Quiet your mind. You know that.
Quiet my mind and soak in prayer. Thank you. I didn't know I could, so I practiced. And the way I was able to quiet my mind, if there's anybody here that doesn't know you can quiet your mind, if there's anybody here that's having a hard time doing that, the way I did it, and it took me time, was to not think about nothing, not to try and think about nothing, but it was to think about one thing. Because if we just try to be quiet and say, okay, I'm not going to think about anything, everything will pop into our mind. But if we think about one thing, it calms the mind, right? It calms the mind, and we just have that one thing. And then as we do a little bit of breath work and we're soaking, the next thing our body calms and our mind quiets. Here's what I learned. When you're praying, you're talking to God. When you're soaking, when you're meditating, you're listening, and you'll hear from God. And God took me out of my body. Can I tell you guys that? It's going to be too extreme for you. God put me in a field and explained to me and showed me why I felt the way that I felt. Even though I understood the science of the mind and the body, I felt a certain way. During my whole life of what I just talked to you about, being incarcerated on the streets, all of that stuff, there was almost a physical wall that would block me from moving forward. I'd be walking, trying to move forward, trying to change my life, and I'd hit this brick wall. I'd always hit the brick wall. I've had psychiatrists and therapists. I mean, throughout my life, I've coaches and everything else. And they used to try and help me break down this wall. And over the years, the wall was so big that I couldn't even see around it. But over the years of learning and growing, the wall started to come down lower, lower, lower. And I was working with a world-renowned psychotherapist. And she said, Raul, can you put a ladder on this wall and walk over it? And I said, I can picture the ladder, but I can't climb it. She said, picture a door in this wall and open the door. And I said, I can picture the door, but it's locked. That was my brain. That was my mind. That was where I was at. And she asked me, she said, what's on the other side of the wall? Like, what is it? And I remember just kind of closing my eyes, and I went like this, and I looked over the wall, and all I saw was beautiful fields, trees way in the background, purple sky, just this beautiful scenery. And she said, but what is it? And the first thing that came to me was freedom. I said, freedom. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, freedom. I said, freedom. I don't know. You asked me what I see. As soon as you said that, that's what I felt. I feel something over there is freedom. And we went through processes and we weren't able to get through the wall. So when I learned to quiet my mind, soak in prayer, God did speak to me. What he did is he put me in that field. Like I'm standing here right now. I was standing in this beautiful field and the wall was gone. And I looked and I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, the wall is gone. I was just like, wow, I can't believe it. And I tried to take a step and I couldn't move. I was like, I tried to take that, I couldn't move. And I was like, what's happening now? The wall is gone and I can't move. And I looked over and there was a little boy standing there. It was me when I was 7 years old. And I looked and I saw myself. And I said, this is what came to my mind. I said, you're my wall. you've been holding me here all of these years? Why? And this little boy looked back up at me and zero emotion, just looked at me. He didn't even speak. We were like telepathic per se, because it's me, right? He looks at me and he says, I'm not holding you here. You're holding me here. And I realized that day on the playground, when I said, no one's ever going to laugh at me again, I'm never going to cry again, that I created an alter ego. And that alter ego stepped in front of that little boy and protected him. No one's going to laugh at this kid. No one's going to make fun of him. And I'm going to fight you and everybody else to protect him. So as soon as this alter ego would start to think somebody was going to make fun of this little boy, I would lash out. I had no control. Defending this alter ego. And it was the little boy inside. Heal the boy, right? And the man will appear. It was a little boy inside who would say, let me go. I want to be free. When I saw and understood that I'd been holding him there, it was like God just showed me my whole life and me holding him. And I knelt down and I grabbed him. I started to hug him. And words just started coming out of my mouth that weren't even from me. And I tell people this all the time. These words are for humanity. And I started saying, you are the light. You are the joy. You are powerful. You are happiness. You are joy. I love you. And I started to apologize to him. I'm sorry. I apologize. I love you. You are light. You are joy. I love you. You are light. You are joy. I'm sorry for holding you here. And then I started to call him son. I love you, son. You're the light, my son. At the same time that I'm saying this to him, holding on to him, I'm also thinking, this is not my son. This is me, and I know it's me. And then everything shifted. And my father, who had died many years before that, was now behind me, hugging me while I hugged myself. And he was saying, I love you, son. I'm sorry, son. You're the light. You're the joy. And there was so much clarity and understanding. And we all three stood up. Like, I'm here, my father, me at this little age, and God is just speaking to us. It's an energy. I love you, my son. You are the light. You are the joy of the world. And he's speaking life into us. That message is not just for me. I hope you guys know that. That's why I'm here sharing it. That's why I want you to share your message. He shares, I'm receiving all of this. And the next thing I know, the little boy is in my hand. My father disappears, and this little boy is in my hand. And I put him into my heart. It was like a prompted to put him into my heart. And I breathe like that. And the second I put him into my heart softened. And I realized again that day on the playground, when I said, no one's ever going to laugh at me again. I'm never going to cry again. Not only did I create that alter ego, but my heart hardened. And it was hard to care about anything. Anybody, anything. That's how I survived the pain, the confusion, the not understanding my emotions of what happened to me at that young age. My heart softened. And the little boy stood in front of me, away from me, and starts to walk into the field. And he's walking into the field, and I'm just looking at him. And he stops, and he hesitates, and he turns around, and he looks at me. And I'm going, no, man, you're free. You're free. But I realize that's me. The hesitation is me. It's not him. All these years, it's been me, this alter ego. And I said, you're free. And he walked into the field, and he just disappeared. And I got this message. This life didn't happen to you. It happened for you. Loving family, broken, streets, incarceration, college. I didn't tell you, I studied all the way to Stanford University. Never got a degree, but I studied I wanted to study with the best psychologists, wherever there was training. I studied all the way to Stanford. Loving family, broken family, streets, incarceration, prison, college, church, understanding the science of the mind and body, understanding the power of God and healing. This life didn't happen to you. It happened for you. Now you take your wisdom your God-given wisdom, and you go share it. You go share it with the world. And that's what I started to do. That's how this company came into play. Many years after I started to do that, the first thing I did is I said, I'm going to go to juvenile hall. That was the first thing that came to me. I need to go to juvenile hall and teach these kids what I've learned, because if I knew this stuff, emotions, psychology, all these things, if I knew this stuff as a kid, I wouldn't have had the life that I lived. So I'm going to teach these kids so that they won't go through the fire that I did. I tell people now, I'm like, I'm the water boy. I've been through the fires of hell, and now I carry buckets of water for you. Here's my wisdom, right? I talked about the fruit of the vine earlier. A tree, you're the tree, you're the root, you're the whatever you want to call it, you're the tree, an apple tree, and your apples are there. A tree doesn't eat its own apples. Those apples are to nourish somebody else. Your story is the fruit of the vine. People will pay you for your past to improve their future. I started going to juvenile hall, and I'm teaching. I get up, I share my story. I sit down, I do work projects with the kids. And this guy standing behind me, he worked there. And he said, hey, how much do you get paid to do this? And I said, I don't get paid to do this. I'm a volunteer. And he said, you know why you don't get paid to do this? And I said, why? He goes, because you don't ask. I go, what? He goes, what you do is an industry. And yeah, at the time I didn't have my book. He goes, do you have a book? And I said, no. He says, everything you're teaching right here, you should have in a book. And he said, and then you should, and back then it wasn't even called coaching. That's a term that I think Tony Robbins created that term 10, 15 years ago. Excuse me. So I looked into it, and I did see author, speaker, coaching. It's a whole industry. So my mind at the time was, I don't want to charge people for this. I just want to help. This is God's calling for me. I just want to help people. And I meet a lot of people that feel the same way. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that you are worthy of being paid for all of the pain you've come through and the wisdom you've gained from it. Have you ever heard people who pay attention? I found that to be very true, even for myself, right? I want to say was smart enough, if that's the right term, that this pastor that I used to work with, this pastor I told you about earlier, I took every word he said and I would utilize it. God just spoke through this guy for me. So anything he taught me, I would just utilize. But I would see person after person go in, talk with him, and do nothing with his advice. And to me, it was the best advice you can get. But it's because they didn't pay for it. Give me just a minute, Hannah. I'll be right there. Because they didn't pay for it. And, I use the other example. I used to go to a gym that was $5 a month. How often do you think I went? Never. I'll go tomorrow. It's only $5. I'll go tomorrow. It's only $5. The gym I go to right now is $150 a month. Guess how often I go? Every day. I am there every day. I was joking about it the other day. Sometimes I go sit at the gym and work on my computer. I'm going to use this gym every day because I'm paying good money for it. People who pay will pay attention, right? You have what it takes. You have the wisdom. I know you do. Now it's time to get at stage. It's time to take that fruit that you have, the wisdom that you have, and to get on stage and share it. I want to inspire you, your friends, your colleagues, your family to understand that your message and the wisdom that you've gained in your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, will help other people. There are people right now who are suffering with something you've been through and have no idea how to come out of it. When I read that book, The Psychology 101, I had no idea there were answers to those questions. What's in your book? What book haven't you written yet? What message do you have? You have a message. I know you do. I know a few of you here are already coming out. So I'm congratulations to you guys who are showing up. I told you guys that I was going to do a couple of things for you here. We're already at 1:49, so we're almost hitting the hour. I want to be done by 2 because I know a lot of you guys got to go. So 2 things, okay? 3 things. 1, we have 3 packages to attend the Dallas event, any of our events, honestly. And just to attend for 3 days, powerful stories, learning, growing, all the stuff we teach about coaching and the whole thing, it's only $97 to attend, and you get to bring a friend with you. I'll put the link in here in just a second. I'd love for you to come and attend. But more so, if you have a story, I want you to come and share your story, okay? So we have what I call a guest speaker program, and the guest speaker program is $497. What you get for the guest speaker program is you get to come and speak for 7 minutes on stage. You get the 3 days of training. You get professional video that we put on our YouTube channel and that we give to you, edited, give it to you. We give you the raw footage, and we give you pictures of you on stage for you to promote yourself and be seen out there sharing your message. Whether you're author, speaker, coach, real estate, whatever entrepreneurial you're in, you attract people by connecting with them with your personal story and emotionally. Okay, for only $497, it's a 7-minute talk, you get a video. I have a VIP package that I call it, where for people who really want to be found and seen as a speaker. We do a lot of personal branding. You get 3 talks, and all of them, what I'm about to tell you, include professional videos, pictures, and a booth at the event. If you have a book or you offer a coaching program, whatever it is, you get a booth also. You get a 20-minute talk at this live event in Dallas. You get a 1-hour online summit, co-speaking with Les Brown, and that 1 hour you get to offer a product. We set it all up for you. Then you get an additional 7-minute guest speaker spots. You get 3 speaking gigs, 3 different stages, 3 different videos, everything marketed. We create graphics, we market you on our landing pages and everything else. That package is $34.97, $3,497. It's basically you're hanging out with this for a year, depending on how quickly you want to get all your things. Because you don't have to do all of your talks in a row. You can come to where we're closest to you, whatever works for you. So we have those 3 packages that we offer on a regular basis. In fact, you know what? I should have had that link. I'm gonna put that link in here right now so you guys can look at it, and then I'm gonna tell you about the special thing that I just made this today. Honestly, I just created something. I was like, you know what? Everybody's doing a Black Friday sale. I need to do a okay, where's my thing? Is it? Here it is. You guys do Black Friday sales? I usually don't, but I'm going to. I'm going to jump on the bandwagon. All right, here it is, to everyone. This is the link to the event, okay? What you'll see on this is a lot of our current speakers already. You'll see all 3 of those packages I just mentioned to you. $97 to attend, you get to bring a friend. $497, 7-minute professional video, pictures of your talk, and then the VIP package that I mentioned, all right? That's our standard. What I'm going to do for Black Friday is, because there's a lot of people who want the longer talk and want the video of the longer talk, because you could take a 20-minute talk and you could break it into a whole bunch of little 30-second, 60-second videos, and you'll have enough marketing to last you forever. A lot of the video that I use right now for my marketing, it's one of the first videos I did many years ago, because it was only, it's a 15-minute talk I edited it down to. So, all right, Heidi, you got to go. Hope you click on that link. Take a look at what we're doing. But what I'm going to do, because some people don't want to come to multiple events and all that type of thing, I created a package, a Black Friday deal for one 20-minute talk in Dallas, one 20-minute talk, professional video, pictures, and the booth for just $997. Okay. So I know people who sell 7 minutes for $1,500 because of the video content and creation and editing and all of that. So the Black Friday deal I'm going to put in here now is that, and you'll see the everything that it includes, and it's only $997, gets you a 20-minute talk and a video. That is honestly, it's a great deal. And it's because it's a Black Friday deal. Okay, I just popped that in there. All right, so super cool. We have 16 people here. Okay, we are just about done. So I consider everybody who's here right now has made it to the end. So what I do have for you guys, in addition to anyone who buys any package, I don't care if it's a $97, if it's the $497, if it's the Black Friday deal or the VIP, anybody who purchases any of that today, I'm going to give you, I have a sponsor who sponsors our events, and they give us Cancun trips to give away. Free Cancun trips, 4 people, 5 days to Cancun, paid. Everything is paid except for your flights. I think there's a tax. It's a $100 tax or something like that. But anybody who buys $97, anybody who does anything with us today, I'm going to give you a free trip to Cancun. It's the trip is good for a year once you register for it, and you can take people with you and have a great time. Now let me open up to questions. Who has questions here? Who can I help?
Can we save the chat first? I just tried to save the chat and I couldn't.
What are you looking for, the link to save the link?
Yeah, well, I was going to just save the chat and later I can look at it because I have to hop off.
Oh, okay. I can give you those links. Actually, I think you might actually have them. You can click on it. And the reason I'm saying that is because I don't even know how to save the chat.
Save the chat. Oh, okay,
I think
fine.
you got to do that on your side. You gotta do that on your side. But you can, I think you have my, we're on Messenger. Message me.
Okay,
If you
fine.
want
I'll,
Friday night.
I'll copy. I'll copy it. I'll
Okay.
copy it. Okay.
All right. Anybody have questions about the?
Yeah, I do. I was wondering, I can't make it to the Dallas because I have another speaking event that weekend. Do you know like the next time, the date and where your next event will be yet?
So we do quarterly. So right now we're planning our February. We don't have the dates locked in yet.
Okay,
The crazy thing is it's either going to be on one side of the coast. So we're looking at downtown Los Angeles or Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So we're
oh,
gonna
nice, okay.
that in the next few weeks.
And then if we buy the packet today, we can use all that for that next
Yeah,
event.
absolutely. That's I'm glad you
Okay.
said that. Great. Anybody who buys the package, it's not mandatory for the next event. Somebody bought a package
Okay.
Yesterday, and they said they want to come in February, so they're not going to come to Dallas. So you don't lose anything. You don't have to
Okay,
like
perfect.
next one. All right, cool.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hope to see you soon. Any other
Yes.
questions here?
Ro, this is Brooke. Is it for those who are speaking and for anyone who does, are there people that are in the audience? Is everyone a speaker, or are there people in the audience that are not speakers that then this would, then become more afterwards? So besides getting the raw footage, all that amazing stuff, and having that booth, are there people that are interested that are coming because it is more of a
Yes.
symposium or summit? I'm just curious about which it is.
Okay, yeah. So the answer is yes. We get a lot of people who just attend the event. We target, so people know we target, our demographic is entrepreneurs in general. A lot of entrepreneurs, real estate agents, mortgage, insurance, people who are out there, entrepreneurs hustling, that people to people business. I say we bring in a lot of entrepreneurs. We target a lot of entrepreneurs. Not everybody speaks. I'd say 25% of our room are speakers. And then the rest are some form of an entrepreneur. They're looking either to become an author, speaker, or a coach. There are also people there that know somebody and that just know that there's powerful stories, who have been to our events before, I've heard about our events, and they come to listen and connect with great people.
So, Ro, hopefully not offline, but we dialogued. I am an author. Gratitude to be able to be on this platform, and it's okay to bring our books, correct? And then you said there would be some table time. Perfect. Okay.
Yep. Bring out
All
your
right.
books. If you have banners, I always invite any
Yes.
speakers who are coming to bring your banners. We usually decorate inside the room with everybody's banners. It's not just about us. Really, what we're trying to do is help you, promote you. I want you to share your story. I want you to change people's lives. Okay. I do it plenty. I don't make this event about me in any way. When I first started speaking and I would do events, I'd get all dressed up and I try to act like I was a speaker and stuff. And now I go in a t-shirt like I'm dressed right now. It's not about me. It's getting you guys out there and getting you seen. So any other questions? Yes, Rebecca.
I was wondering, what is maybe the average audience size?
We average 80 people.
Excellent. Okay.
Depending on where we go, yeah. Usually the rooms that we get rooms for 100. So we'll register and sell maybe, well, I shouldn't say that. Now, we used to register people and bring people in for free. So we would make sure we would get 150 to 200 people registered. And then, we'd get about half of that to show up. Now, we don't, if you buy a ticket, you're allowed to bring somebody with you, but we don't just give out free tickets anymore. Everybody pays the $97 to attend, at least to attend for the 3 days. All right, let's see who we have over here. Mr. Ray, I got your message that you can't make it. That's unfortunate, my friend. Hopefully you still might have a chance to come out. And then Jason, we were talking the other day. You have something cool going on. We should talk some more, my friend. Hope you enjoyed the talk. Timothy, you just jumped on. We talked more recently. Anybody else have any questions before we go? All right, so last thing I want to do is give you guys my email address. Hopefully most of you got my email and that's why you're here. But if you saw me on social media and you don't have it, I'm going to jot it in here, because if you have questions or you want to set up a phone call, you can email me direct to my, and we can set up a call. Is that right? Oh no, that's wrong. This is my secret email. Why does it keep doing that? There it is. Boom. All right. That is my direct email. Thank you, everybody who's been here. I'll give you one last shot for questions. We've got 1 minute left. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. Are we good? All right, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate you. Hopefully see you in Dallas. Bye-bye.